Shana Tova, everyone. We will start in about 4 minutes. Shana Tova, everyone. Let's try that again. That was so beautiful. I just want to hear it again, okay? Shana Tova, everyone. Welcome to the sanctuary at 5200 Old Mill Road. Here we are, a congregation Achduth V'Shalom family. This year, as we are on the cusp of entering 5782, we are having a very different experience than we had just 1 year ago. It is so good to see those of you who are with us in the sanctuary and the many of you who are joining us remotely from near and far. It is so heartwarming to see all of us together as one community to see in the new year on this night of Erev Rosh Hashanah. My name is Rabbi Meir Bargeron. just in case there's somebody I haven't met or is visiting tonight. And I am so honored and excited to be here this evening with our cantorial soloist, Brian Sussman, and with our music director, Maestro Bob Nance. And I'm joined here on the bima by our president, Ronnie Greenberg. Tonight, we will begin the journey into the days of awe. We will leave behind 5781 and let go of that and move in to the new year. We don't know what the new year will bring us, but what we do know is that we start the year the same way, and that is by reflecting, and is by taking account of our souls, and that is by hoping, striving, yearning to be written in the book of life. Our service will begin in your machzor on page 17. The prayer that Brian will begin and that I will continue in English, and then Brian will conclude. Hinini, here I am. The reason for this prayer is this is the opportunity that Brian and I have basically to clear the decks and to express the awe that we have and the responsibility that we have in being your prayer leaders this evening. We will continue on page 17.
Hinini hiani mimas nirash v'nifchad mipachad Yoshev tehilot Yisrael.
Here I am, one soul within this prayer community. Like those around me, I bring my own concerns and yearnings to this place, hoping they will find expression in the time-hallowed words of my people and in the traditions cherished by generations before me, by generations before us. May I bring the best of my energies to these holy days, approaching the spiritual work with open heart and mind, sincerity, and sustained focus on the deep questions of this season, the questions that we are all asking ourselves. Who am I? How shall I live? Where have I fallen short or failed? This night, I and all of us take up the challenge of the days of awe, cheshbon hanefesh, a searching examination of my life, a moral inventory of my deeds, words, and thoughts. Tonight and during the next 10 days, let us face the truth about myself, about ourselves, and listen to your still small voice. Taking comfort in your promise that I am always free to change, released from staleness and routine. Let us know the joy of beginning again. May I gain strength as I share this task with those around me, united by our common purpose. Tikkun midot, improving our characters, and tikkun olam, repairing the world. I now prepare myself to pray, one soul amidst this holy congregation.
Ki ata shomea tefilat Amecha Yisrael berachamim Baruch ata shomea tefilat.
Now it is time for us to cross into 5782, and I invite now Harriet Miller and Monica Worley to the bima. They will light the candles that will shed the first rays of light onto the new year. You will find the blessing for candle lighting on page 11. That's okay. This festival.
Source of blessing, eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on this festival.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
This night marks the beginning of a new cycle right now. And just seconds ago, we ended the previous cycle. On Rosh Hashanah, we begin anew. And the earth, all of God's creation, begins anew. And our task this year is to determine how it is that we are to care for God's creation. Our service will continue on page 15.
Tiku v'chodesh shofar b'kesel leyom chagenu ki chok leYisrael hu mishpat leElohei Yaakov.
At the new moon, at the full moon, for our feast day, sound the shofar, for that is the law of Israel, the way of God and of Jacob. We praise God with the blast of the shofar. And now for the first time in these days of awe, let us, in the middle of page 15, say the blessing for the hearing of the shofar. Together. Baruch atah Adonai, shomea kol truat amo Yisrael barachamim. Blessed are you in our lives, Adonai. You hear with love the shofar, true voice of your people, Israel. And now, our Baal Tekiyah, the shofar for the first time in 5782. Tekiyah! Thank you. Yasher koach. Thank you very much, Norm Greenberg, for being our Baal Tekiyah. And now, I invite you to please rise as we open the ark. And our service will continue on page 19. Let us say the prayer for the entry, the announcement of the new year together, and it's 82. All right. Together, let us pray. Our God and God of our ancestors, may we know your blessings in the year 5782. Eternal One, bless us and the whole house of Israel with renewed life, happiness and peace, comfort and courage, resilience and strength. May the words of our heart be acceptable to you in the new year that stretches before us. We are forever grateful for the gift of life. We will remain standing as our service continues on page 20 with Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Baruch Adonai HaMelech Le'olam Vaed.
You may be seated. Our service continues on page 23. Bless Adonai, who spins day into dusk. With wisdom, watch the dawn gates open. With understanding, let time and seasons come and go. With awe, perceive the stars in lawful orbit. Morning dawns, evening darkens, darkness and light yielding one to the other, yet each distinguished and unique. Marvel at life, strive to know its ways, seek wisdom and truth, the gateways to life's mysteries. Wondrous indeed is the evening twilight. Please join me at the bottom of the page for the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dusk. Our service continues on the next page. Love beyond all space and time. Your love enfolds your people, Israel. We receive it in your teaching, your gift of Torah, sacred obligations, discipline, and law. So let us speak these teachings when we lie down and rise up and find joy forever in your Torah and mitzvot. They are the very essence of our life, ours to ponder and study all our days. May we never lose or be unworthy of your love. Together, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Our service continues on page 26. Please rise as you are able for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed.
You may be seated. Our service continues on page 28. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצטווך היום על לבבך, ושירנתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. You may turn the page. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. Our service continues on page 34. And in just a moment, Brian will lead us in the prayer Micha Mocha. This prayer, as we commonly refer to it, is our people's prayer of redemption. And on this Rosh Hashanah night, I think about the Israelites standing on the shore of the Red Sea, which is the scene in which this takes place just before this prayer appears in Torah. They are crossing over from Mitzrayim, the narrow place, the land of Egypt, to where they're going, they do not know, to the wilderness. And they take that step, I can only imagine, with great trepidation, because there it is, the Red Sea right there, and the Egyptians coming behind them. But we know from the story that through a miracle, the waters part and the people cross over the sea to the other side. And they sing this prayer, Micha Mocha, when they arrive safely on the shore. As we now are finding ourselves in that space between the ending of a year and we're just seconds into the beginning of a new one, we are crossing over, perhaps with as much uncertainty as the Israelites when they crossed the Red Sea. We continue with Micha Mocha on page 34.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים. צלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch hu, Baruch Shemo,
גאלה ישראל.
Amen. Our service continues on page 36. Bless our sleep with peace, Adonai, and awaken us to life when we rise. With power sublime, spread over us your Sukkot Shalom, your shelter of peace. And through your wisdom, restore us, make us whole. Let your name proclaim your presence in our lives. Be our shield. Make us stronger than the enemies we face, illness and war, famine and sorrow, and stronger than the enemies in our hearts, wickedness and sin. Carry us to safety as on wings, for you are the monarch of grace, the sovereign of compassion. You are the one who cares for us and sets us free. Watch over us, we who go forth to life. Watch over us that we may come home in peace now and till the end of time. Together, let us continue. Baruch
Baruch
atah
atah
Adonai,
Adonai,
haporei
haporei
sukat
sukat
shalom
shalom
aleinu,
aleinu,
ve'al
ve'al
kol
kol
amo
amo
Yisrael,
Yisrael,
ve'al
ve'al
Yerushalayim.
Yerushalayim.
Blessed One, you spread over us a canopy of peace, a shelter of shalom over all Israel, your people, and over Jerusalem. Our service continues on page 40. And now I invite you to rise as you are able for Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yirutei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayed kol beit Yisrael. Bagala, uvizman kariv, veimeru, Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevrach, le'alam ul'al me'amaya, yitbarach. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpar ve'itromam ve'yitnaseh ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'italal shemei dekudesha richu le'ela ul'ela milkol birchatav ve'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma ve'imeru Amen.
You may be seated. On this night of Rosh Hashanah, we begin, or perhaps if we started this in the month of Elul, we continue, whichever it is for you. We are engaged in the act of cheshbon hanefesh, the accounting of our soul. In Israel, after you order a meal in a restaurant, they bring you the cheshbon, the bill. And this is a spiritual discipline built into our tradition in which we begin to look inward. We begin to do an accounting of our actions, of have we lived up to the values that we hold dear? Have we treated others with love? Are we being the best person that God created us to be? And fill in the blank with your questions for your accounting of your soul. What fascinates me about this process of accounting for our soul is that it is embedded in what we're doing through this whole season, right up until the last moments of Yom Kippur. But in the midst of this, we also offer blessing, the gratitude that we have for all of the things in our life, and we offer those to God in the Amidah, which you will find as we continue our service on page 42. We will start on page 42, and we will continue through page 49. So we'll be standing for a little while. So whenever I invite you to stand, please remember that it is always as you are able, whether you are standing on your feet or whether you are standing and lifting your hearts up in prayer. Whichever is right for you, please rise, and we will continue with the Amidah on page 42.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor veHanora, Elyon, Gomeh Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך וברוך שמו,
מגן אברהם ושרה, אמן. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מחייל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומיתו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו, זכרים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה, זה חיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך הוא וברוך שמו,
מחיי הכל.
אמן.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללו סלה.
You may be seated. As we stand before God, as we stood just a moment ago before God, offering the blessings of this life, reflecting them back to God, we do this every time we pray together in the sanctuary or wherever we are praying in community. But there's something different about how it feels tonight. And I'm pretty sure what's different tonight, how is this night different than other nights? This is the night in which we are filled with awe. We are not merely offering blessing, which is a wonderful thing that we do, but we are very conscious of the awe, the wonder that we experience before our Creator. In this season, in these days of awe, may we, in this humility that being in awe of God brings us, may that open us up just a little bit more to offer blessing and to be blessed in return. Our service continues on the middle of page 49. And so, in your holiness, give all creation the gift of awe. Turn our fear to reverence. Let us be witnesses of wonder, perceiving all of nature as a prayer come alive. We bow to the sovereignty of your strength, the primacy of your power. We yearn for connection with all that lives, doing your will with wholeness of heart. Awe-inspiring is your creation. All-encompassing is your transcendent name. We continue our service on page 52. And let us read together at the bottom. You are holy. Your name is awe. There is nothing divine beyond you. As the prophet Isaiah taught, the source of all might is exalted through justice, the God of holiness made holy through righteousness. Baruch atah Adonai HaMelech HaKadosh. We continue now on page 57. This is the season of God. This is the season of our humanity. And this is the day, this is the night, when one word stands at the very center of Jewish prayer. Meloch. 3 Hebrew letters. Mem, Lamed, Chaf. Reign over space and time. Maloch, reign over the infinite expanse. Show us your reality. Help us to see our finite place in the cosmos that is our home. What is God's sovereignty? What is God's rule? It is the rule of unity by which we sense coherence in the universe. It is the power of relationship, relating every image of God to every other image of God and to every facet of nature. Sunshine and ocean waves, heartbeats, honey bees, the stuff that stars are made of. It is the ultimate power that governs our lives with wisdom, compassion, truth, and kindness. In this season of God, may we breathe new life into the ancient name Melech HaOlam, and may the ruler of the universe breathe new life into each of us. I'll now invite you to continue to pray silently, either the prayers in your hearts or the prayers that you will find between pages 58 and 70. We'll take now some time for private prayer.
Yehul ratzon, Yehul ratzon, imrefi, vegion libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, v'goli. Amen, amen, amen.
Amen. Amen. Our service continues on page 76. And for the first time in this high holy day season, we will pray together Avinu Malkeinu, the prayer of God as our parent and as our sovereign. We will pray this together responsively, beginning on page 76 and continuing on page 77. And then we will take in the prayer musically after we have prayed together responsively. We will open the ark to bring ourselves closer to the eternal as we say Avinu Malkeinu. Please rise as you are able. Let us read responsively. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, for your sake, show us mercy. Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, bring healing and wholeness to the ill among us. Avinu Malkeinu, allay the harshness of the decree against us. Avinu Malkeinu, ascribe us in the book of redemption and renewal. Avinu Malkeinu, remember our goodness and call it to mind. Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake and save us. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strained and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived. And together, Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamo aleinu, ve'al oleinu, ve'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale dever, v'cherev v'ra'av, me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale chol tzar, umastin me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, kotvenu besefer chaim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, Chodesh Aleinu, Chodesh Aleinu, Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chodesh Aleinu, Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Shama Koleinu, Shama Koleinu, Shama Koleinu.
You may be seated. Shana Tova. Tonight on this Erev Rosh Hashanah, I would like to share with you a Hasidic tale. With the approach of Rosh Hashanah, as we close the past year and welcome the new, what better time for auditing our experiences in the past year so that we can better them in the year to come. Each one of us does so in our own personal way, yet there is something we can all learn from Moshe, the innkeeper, who employed a unique method of accounting. The Baal Shem Tov's students once asked how to prepare for the high holy days, and he sent them to observe the simple innkeeper, Moshe. The students took a room in his inn and they waited to discover the answer to their question. At midnight, before Rosh Hashanah, they heard Moshe rustling about in the front room. they peeked out and they saw Moshe taking down 2 large notebooks from the shelf. He sat down at a small stool, lit a candle, and began reading from one of the notebooks. This notebook was a diary of all the misdeeds and transgressions the innkeeper had committed in the course of the year. The date, time, and circumstance of each was scrupulously noted. This guy's amazing. What detail. His sins were quite benign. A word of gossip one day, oversleeping the time for prayer on another, neglecting to give his daily coin to charity on a third. But by the time Moshe had read through the first few pages, his face was bathed in tears. For more than an hour, Moshe read and wept until the last page had been turned. He then took a minute. He dried his eyes. He got up, went over to the basin, splashed some cold water on his face, dried off. Then he went back and sat down, and he opened up the second notebook. This too was a diary of all the troubles and misfortunes that had fallen before him in the course of the year. On this day, Moshe was beaten by a gang of peasants. On that day, his child fell ill. Once, in the dead of winter, the family had frozen for several nights for lack of firewood. Another time, their cow had died, and there was no milk until enough pennies had been saved to buy another. When he had finished reading the second notebook, the innkeeper lifted his eyes heavenward and he said, "So you see, dear God in heaven, I have sinned against you. And last year I repented and promised to fulfill your commandments, but I repeatedly succumbed to my evil inclination. But last year, I also prayed and begged for a year of health and prosperity, and I trusted in you that it would indeed be this way. Dear God, today is the eve of Rosh Hashanah, when everyone forgives and is forgiven. God in heaven, let us put the past behind us. I did not always do what was asked of me, and you didn't always do what was asked of you. I forgive you, and you forgive me, and we'll call it even." On this Erev Rosh Hashanah, as we enter the days of awe, may we each reflect on our deeds as thoroughly and as diligently as Moshe the innkeeper, so that we can repent and perhaps even more importantly, make amends to those whom we hurt, those who we harmed. May we remember that just as Moshe bargains with God, we are each in an interactive relationship with the Eternal One. God can take our sadness and our anger and our criticism as much as God can receive our love and our dedication. On this cusp of the new year, may we hold on to what Moshe learned. And we are not perfect, and that there are times when God disappoints us. But year after year, we come back together and begin the cycle anew. May each of you have a sweet 5782. Shana Tova. It is now my distinct pleasure to invite Ronnie Greenberg, the president of our congregation, who has a message for us.
It's just nice to have some unobstructed air for a little bit. Shana Tova. May the year 5782 be one of health and happiness for you and your loved ones. My name is Ronnie Greenberg, and I am privileged to be the president of this congregation. My husband Norm and I have been members since 1973, and so in 2 short years, we will celebrate 50 years as members of Akduth V'Sholem. We've seen a lot of changes in those years. We raised 2 sons in this congregation, and although it isn't always easy to maintain a Jewish identity and Jewish family life in Fort Wayne, it can be done. Both of our sons have a strong connection to Judaism. Steve made Aliyah in 1990, and so has lived in Israel for over 30 years. And Jonathan is an HUC ordained rabbi working for a private Jewish foundation in Chicago. One thing that hasn't changed over the years is that the temple has always provided the structure on which we modeled our Jewish practice and the resources to live that practice. I hope the temple is and will continue to be the same sort of resource for you and your family. We work hard to offer programming and education that meets the broad range of interests and needs of our congregants. We offer 2 weekly Torah study sessions, as well as liturgical Hebrew. We have a book club to read and discuss books of Jewish interest. We have a congregational choir for those who love to sing. We demonstrate our commitment to Tikkun Olam and social action through our High Holiday Food Drive and Thoughtful Thursdays program. We provide adult education throughout the year on a range of topics, and sometimes we just have social time, like playing mahjong or lunching with the Romeos or our corned beef fundraiser. Yes, it's a fundraiser, but it's also a time to get together and have fun playing with food. But none of these programs and events happen on their own. In fact, everything you see around you, from the beautiful grounds and building to the Rosh Hashanah booklet in your hands, or the inspiring service and music, none of it happens by itself. It takes hardworking, committed people to make it all happen. It takes you and me to make it all happen. I sincerely hope that you will not only participate in the many programs offered here, but also volunteer to make those programs happen. It is a trite phrase, but true. Our children are our future. And therefore, our religious school is particularly important in temple life. Under the energetic leadership of Religious School Chair Lise Rossman, our school has been reframed as a family education program to be called Kesher, meaning connection. Through a combination of virtual and in-person learning experiences, students will experience Jewish values to build lasting Jewish identity, learn about Jewish time through activities for Jewish holidays, and acquire the building blocks of Hebrew learning to access Jewish prayers and texts. It is an exciting and ambitious program, and while parents of students will be very involved, additional adult leadership is always needed. If you can help, please contact Lise or contact me. In addition to how fortunate we are at Akduth V'Sholem to have an involved and active membership, we are equally fortunate to have outstanding staff. I want to thank Rabbi Meir Bargeron for his creativity and leadership and his persistently positive attitude in the face of changing circumstances. I want to thank our executive director, Samara Charay, and our outstanding staff, Administrative Assistant Marie McFadden, Controller Jamie Fritz, and Building Supervisor Clint Rossiter for all their efforts that ensure that everything runs smoothly. I also want to thank our friend and extraordinary musician, Maestro Bob Nance, and tenor Brian Sussman for their contribution to this beautiful service. If I began thanking all the congregants who volunteer in all the capacities at the temple, we would be here all day and I would surely forget someone. But there is one set of volunteers that I do want to mention because the service they are providing us is vital in this time of COVID. I'm referring to the men and women who operate our streaming for services, including this service. Without them, those of you who are attending virtually couldn't. Thank you so much to our Executive Director, Samara Charay, Administrative Assistant Marie McFadden, and congregants Denny Reynolds, Jay Zemmel, and Lee Pomerantz. And if anyone else is interested in training for this mitzvah, please let me know. There is one more person I must thank, someone who is always ready to step in and fill the gap. Need one more usher? He's there. Need someone to build the fire in the fire pit? He's on it. Need someone to work in the garden, sing in the choir, make trays for the Rosh Hashanah reception, blow the shofar at high holidays, or listen patiently when the president wants to vent? Norm Greenberg is there. I am truly blessed with the most patient and supportive partner possible. We have such a vibrant and active congregation. I urge you to be an active part of it. You will gain so much more than you invest. L'shana tova tikatevu v'techatemu. A good year, and may you be inscribed and sealed for blessing in the book of life. Announcements. And now for a few announcements. Again, L'shana tova, on behalf of the Temple Board of Directors and staff, thank you for joining us for the high holidays, and we wish you a happy and healthy new year. We are pleased to welcome everyone from near and far to these services, whether you are here in the sanctuary or joining us online. For those who are in the building, we invite you following tonight's service to a Rosh Hashanah reception in the social hall. Rabbi Meir, myself, and our board members will look forward to greeting you. We remind you that masks are required except while seated at a table to enjoy a nosh. And if you are not fully vaccinated, we also ask you to social distance. Rabbi Meir will lead us in Kiddush before we eat, so please wait for him before you actually eat. Please check out the information tables in the foyer and the social hall. There is a sign-up sheet to become a sponsor and to volunteer for our 19th corned beef sale on November 4th, as well as order forms. I'm going to highlight just a few announcements, but for complete information, please check your announcement booklet or the downloadable handout in this morning's congregational email. You will also find a list of our holiday sponsors. And remember that you may join us for services in person or on Zoom or YouTube. As we continue our Rosh Hashanah celebration as one congregation with two traditions, please join us tomorrow morning for one of our worship services. The traditional service will be led by Rabbi Ilan Glazer, beginning at 8:30 a.m., and the Reform service will be led by Rabbi Meir at 10 a.m. We'll meet after morning worship in the foyer to walk together to Foster Park for our Tashlik service led by Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Ilan. Links were sent this morning for the coming week of services. On Wednesday morning, we will have a traditional service for the second day of Rosh Hashanah at 8:30. Please help us to continue to assist those who have food insecurities with a monetary donation to benefit the food bank at Wellspring Interfaith Social Services. There is a tzedakah box in the foyer, or please check the announcements for more information. Thank you to the Social Action Committee. Please also consider a donation to our 11th annual Thoughtful Thursdays Apple Project to provide fresh fruit to our Bright Point Head Start students and their families. And also plan to join us next week for Yom Kippur services with Kol Nidre on Wednesday, September 15th. We are also pleased that the Romeos will be hosting our congregational Break the Fast the next day. Please RSVP for that by Thursday, September 9th. Thank you again for joining us tonight as we begin the year 5782. We appreciate everyone involved in creating a meaningful and welcoming holiday experiences, and especially thank Rabbi Meir for the beautiful service, Bob Nance and Brian Sussman for the music, Mike Rush, Norm Greenberg, Nancy and Mike Dicker for ushering, Samara Sheree for operating the Zoom, Bobby Golani and Deb Valensky and their team for putting together a lovely Rosh Hashanah reception, our temple staff, Samara, Marie, Jamie, and Clint, and the many dedicated volunteers who give of their time and talents. And lastly, thank you to our high holiday sponsors for their generosity in supporting the temple. Shana Tova, and thank you all again for being part of our temple family.
Thank you, Ronnie. You know, when I heard Ronnie talk about all of the things that are happening here, and in her description of how she sees the congregation, and then in the announcements with a lot of information, but things that we need to know. And then when I look at this, which you all got on the way in, and I see the things that we didn't even talk about yet that are listed here, we have a lot happening in this community. For a community of our size, we are so engaged, and we have so many different interests that draw people here to Temple Life. It is so exciting to be here and to be a part of that, and to have a moment like we just had with Ronnie giving us maybe the 30,000-foot view. It was very, very exciting. So thank you Ronnie for sharing that with us. We have come to the beginning of the end of our Erev Rosh Hashanah service. The only thing I'll add in terms of announcements is my promise to you, since we're waiting for Kiddush and Motzi, I will get over there really, really fast. Okay, I will get there, like it'll take me 2 minutes, but I'll be right there. And I appreciate your patience. We will continue our service on page 82. Page 82 with the prayer, Aleinu. Please rise as you are able.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotze breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol ha'amonat. Va'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim modim לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. You may be seated for a moment, because in a moment we have come now to the time when we remember those who have died either recently or in this season in past years. I will read our communal Kaddish list, and when I come to the end of that list, I'll invite you to add the names of anyone who you are remembering. It seems to me that when we come together on holidays, holy days such as this one, we feel the absence of people. And if there's anyone that you are feeling particularly, you're drawn to their memory tonight, whatever the season that they left us, please feel free to offer their name. On this era of Rosh Hashanah, we continue the period of Shana, the death within the past year of Ron Subik, Harold Prigozhin, Sarah Lee Levin, Marilyn Salin, Marvin Krell, Jack Rosenberg, Leah Menashe Vabaila, Kathy Jarvis, James Lieb, Norman Snow, Paul Schwartz Jr., Joan Kramer, Carol Friedman. On this Rosh Hashanah, it is the yahrzeit, the anniversary of death of Gladys Adams, Lottie Albert, Grace Becker, Lottie Colucci, Abraham Dicker, Harry Fryfield, Robert Gaskill, Irving Golder, Joseph Y. Goltz, Dr. Morris Himmelstein, Ruby Jackson, Mildred K. Jacobs, Sophia Mayer Johnston, Rose J. Kaplan, Robert I. Kesselman, Shirley Comito, Edward Cranus, Michael Coopersmith, Moses Lamley, Stephen Warren Landy, Edward LaFond, Sam Levin, Laura Himmelstein Levine, Theodore Levy, Joseph Mayer Levy, Katie Meyer, Doris Myers, Jack Moyer, Miriam Nemoff, Lillian Fax Oxtein, Colonel William J. Plotka, Pearl Russ, Francine Schubert, Leah Schulman, Gerlind Schwartz, Irene P. Schur, Janetta A. Silverman, Jack Singer, Pamela Spielman, Ermegard A. Stein, Thelma Strauss, Nettie Stumpf, Jacob Weil, Ida Weinstein, Inez Zacharia. And to those names we add for these names and all the names we carry in our heart, and the names of those who perished in the Shoah, and for the names of those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. I invite you now to turn to page 90, and let us now rise in solidarity as we are able to say Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach cherotei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayachon u'vyomachon u'chayei dekol beit Yisrael, bagala u'bizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba mi'varach le'olam ulmei almaya. Yitbarach v'ishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitnaram v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela ul'ela mikol birchata v'yishirata. Tush bechata v'nechamata tamiran be'elma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. You may be seated. Let us turn now to page 99. Page 99, as we prepare to take in this year and carry it into this Erev Rosh Hashanah night. Our God and God of our ancestors, eternal God of all generations, may your presence in our lives in this new year renew our spirits and renew our strength. May it be a good year. May it be a sweet year. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year.
Leshana tova tikatevu, Leshana tova tikatevu, tikatevu vetechatemu. Leshana tova tikatevu, Leshana tova tikatevu, tikatevu vatechatemu.
L'shana tova, everyone. We'll see you at the reception.